James Gunn could be done at DC, the entire thing in a free fall. They're canceling now just about every single female superhero project they have after Supergirl bombed out with one of the worst box office performances we've ever seen. Oh no, it is the worst in the superhero genre. The dominoes, they are fallen over at DC as Warner Brothers is waiting for Paramount to come calling and tell them what to do about James Gunn. Today, folks, we'll tell you why you should stick a fork in the whole franchise. It's done. Click that like button, share, subscribe, and click it. Stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. The James Gunn DC collapse is on the way, and Supergirl seems to be the catalyst for all of it. It is the worst performing DC film of all time. And I think that's even before we adjust for inflation. Supergirl has finished its run at the box office, $126 million, which I believe is far less than its production budget, not to mention its marketing budget, not to mention that only half of this goes back to DC because cinemas and Uncle Sam get their cut of everything. And as you can see, if we look at the chart here, Supergirl, after its opening 5, 6, 7 days, flatlined. I mean, it was dead. It was deader than dead. Opened up on the 26th of June. By the 8th of July, it was over. It was over. And really roll over, it was pretty dead before that too, but then just nothing. How nothing are we talking about? When Supergirl was finally removed from cinemas a few days ago, it was making $64 and $47
oh my gosh
per screen.
Wow.
I'd say that's 3 tickets per day. That's how gone Supergirl was. And you can see it was only left in 75 screens. I mean, this was just, it was really embarrassing. But that's Supergirl. That's Supergirl, and it is toast. Well, what about the other things that DC had planned? Folks, we're here to tell you that according to Marvin Montenaro, he's on the panel right now, he'll talk to us about it. Geeks and Gamers posting this. DC axes or rejects 4 female-led shows after Supergirl flops at the box office. So the dominoes, they are falling. It looks like Warner Brothers may be learning some very expensive lessons from Supergirl. Following the catastrophic box office performance of James Gunn and Peter Safran's Supergirl, 4 prospective female-led DC television projects have now suffered major setbacks. 2 previously announced shows are reportedly dead, while HBO and DC Studios have rejected pitches for 2 more. That's 4, ladies and gentlemen, 4 gone down the drain. According to a new report from the Ankler, Waller, and Paradise Lost, both part of the original DC Universe slate announced by Gunn and Safran, are dead. Meanwhile, separate television shows starring Catwoman and Poison Ivy were recently pitched to DC Studios and HBO, and guess what? They're not happening no mo. All right, Marv, it looks to me like there's a cascade effect here. I don't think, by the way, that female superheroes are undoable, but I think they may be undoable under James Gunn. What do you think's happening here?
Well, so here's the thing. We can't prove that Supergirl was the cause of this, but you can look at the facts as they exist, right? You have Waller, which was one of his major passion projects that he really wanted to get off the ground with Viola Davis. That's gone. It was also going to bring back Peacemaker characters, so I'm sure his wife was going to be in the show, so he had a vested interest in putting that together. Then there was going to be Paradise Lost. That was supposed to be, he described it as Game of Thrones, and I'm like, oh, just what we need, Game of Thrones, but without all the men. Where it was going to be pre-Wonder Woman Paradise Island. That is now apparently dead as well. But that's a Wonder Woman property, obviously. Big name. Then you've got Catwoman and Poison Ivy. Those are 2 huge names, especially, in the Batman universe. Not that I think that we need more Batman shows without Batman in it, but those 2 got killed in their infancy. They weren't even, the pitches were rejected. But now what are they actually making? Well, we know Lanterns is coming out. That was already filmed. There's no stopping that. They're trying like mad to find somebody else to write this Booster Gold show, and currently filming Jimmy Olsen and Gorilla Grodd. So it's not that they're not doing TV anymore. It's not like they've shut down the HBO Max original series for DC. It's just that like now Jimmy Olsen can get a show, but Catwoman can't. And that is a huge deal. And that to me essentially proves it, that this was Supergirl. Like this was Warner Brothers always overreacts to everything, right? The Dark Knight made $1 billion, so now every superhero needs to be dark and broody. That's how we got the Man of Steel and the Snyderverse. But now it's like, well, Supergirl failed, Birds of Prey failed, and things outside of here, like the Marvels, so that's failed. So no more female-led anything. And I think that's where we are. I think that's what happened. I think this is a complete knee-jerk reaction, and I think eventually it's going to come out that it was. I think that they're pretty much done with anything female led, and probably even Wonder Woman, which is a sin.
Well, let me ask you this, because I don't think that a Jimmy Olsen show.
It's gonna be terrible.
I don't know.
That sounds awful.
So bad.
They cast a guy named Jimmy Tatro, I think is his name, as Gorilla Grodd, and that to me means it's 100% a comedy. And that guy, I don't know what it is. There's just something that's so funny about the way that guy does comedy. He was on a show called American Vandal that he was, just so funny on. So if it's a comedy, well, it's a James Gunn comedy, so it's going to be filthy. So never mind.
But when they put out the casting call for Gorilla Grodd, they wanted a comedian.
Man.
So they are going in the direction of a comedy. Like when they were casting Gorilla Grodd, they wanted a comedian. Yeah.
It's so funny to me because you think about the reversal with how they do this. Like Polka Dot Man is played for laughs, but he's deadly serious. Like he has a super tragic backstory. It's very dramatic, everything about him. But Gorilla Grodd, who is a ridiculous character on his face, right? They're going to go for full comedy for Gorilla Grodd, even though Gorilla Grodd is supposed to be a gigantic, threatening gorilla. So I guess James Gunn wants the funny guys to be fun, to be dramatic, and the dramatic guys to be funny.
It'll be interesting to compare it to the CW Flash, because they had Gorilla Grodd on that show.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be intimidating.
It was handled better.
Yeah.
So when we look at this, I think what is causing them to still pick some TV shows, even if they're getting rid of the female-led stuff, I think what is causing them to select some TV shows still is this deal with Paramount. The Ellisons are being stopped or delayed by California right now from finishing this deal, which means they can't get a hold of Warner Brothers, which means they can't say James Gunn is done. And so all Warner Brothers can do, all Zaslav can do is say, you're kind of still here for now, and your contract's still going, so do some stuff, but not big stuff. Don't do big stuff. Just do some little stuff. Or as we were told in Spider-Man, do the little potatoes, okay? We do big potatoes with Ellisons.
Right.
Potatoes. I don't think they're accepting any new projects. These projects that they're working on now are things that are already like in motion. They're not doing anything new. And yeah, they're getting rid of like female-led properties and not, wanting to do them. Personally, they should have led with Wonder Woman, or not led with it, but they should have led with the big three: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
Yep.
And the fact that they didn't want to do that James Gunn didn't want to do that, it was a really terrible decision.
It's funny when you think about the character of Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. That is from Suicide Squad, which also got recut. So we were already on a second version of the Suicide Squad by the time that even got into theaters. And then there was another movie, The Suicide Squad, which was a semi-reboot. And then you have the actual reboot. And it just feels like they should have demolished the building and rebuilt from scratch, instead of having this monstrosity of, we're gonna put on an office, and then also we're gonna put on a patio. We're gonna put a rec room on the other side of the patio, so we're gonna put a land bridge over the patio. And now the patio's in the dark, but don't mind that. This is just, if they could actually reboot everything, or better yet, just do individual series or individual films that were good and then come back around to this later, it would be so much better. But I have the feeling that James Gunn is now being tasked with, okay, whether or not he realized that he was brought in to make Warner Brothers sellable on behalf of David Zaslav. His job was to get just enough Superman that a buyer could see the potential, just enough of this, that, and the other that they could see the potential. And now, if the Paramount thing doesn't go through, the best thing that they can do is either try to get that potential restarted, which I don't think is happening, or fire James Gunn and restart the whole process again and have another buyer see the potential. So from a business standpoint, I don't envy James Gunn's position. I hope he has a great golden parachute.
Well, Marv, let me give you the final word on this. I'd like to ask you your thought about my theory as to what they should do until they figure out the Paramount deal. I think until Paramount has Warner Brothers, and that's going to happen. We just don't know when that's going to happen. But until we find out when they're going to own Warner Brothers and if Warner Brothers is going to move to Tennessee and all this kind of stuff, the rule should be, can we put that on a lunchbox? And if it's not something we can sell on a lunchbox or a backpack, we're not doing that. We're not doing anything unless there's mass appeal. What do you think, Marv?
I agree. The main problem with DC Universe is they confuse people right off the bat. First thing out the gate was Creature Commandos, and the few people that watched that realized it was filthy. You know, it was just cursing and all this other stuff. And then you get to Superman, and Superman was supposed to be squeaky clean. I mean, there's some things in there that I think parents object to, but for the most part, you know, Superman is a movie that, you know, a kid could watch. But then you immediately go right into Peacemaker. He says that Peacemaker is where the story continues. He said that. And then, you know, I think a lot of parents probably turned on Peacemaker for their kids. And holy crap, in the first episode, you got John Cena, you know, with a whole bunch of pipe swinging around his face. And you know, then right away, and then you go into Supergirl, and Supergirl is kind of in between. You know, Supergirl didn't have you know, like the F-bombs, but it was everything just short of the F-bombs. Now you're going into Lanterns, in which Nathan Fillion has already said, I've never dropped more F-bombs in my life than in this script.
Right.
But by the way, they're saying that Fillion's going to be in Mr. Miracle as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going to be filthy as well. So, you know, you've created a thing that's not for kids. You created a superhero universe that kids can't enjoy. The reason why why Spider-Man makes billions of dollars? Because adults and kids like him. It's 4-quadrant.
Yeah.
Like, that's what superheroes have to be. And there's room for a Deadpool, sure, but a Deadpool, a singular Deadpool. You can't have 10 Deadpools and 2 things that are for everybody.
Right, because kids are supposed to be playing with these things. So hard to do when you're putting people in a hard R situation like they did with Peacemaker. All right, folks, you let us know. Is the DC collapse underway? What do you think? And can James Gunn last past the point where the Ellisons finish buying this thing? Warner Brothers going to be owned by Paramount, and leave little doubt, ladies and gentlemen, when the Ellisons take it, they're going to say, we'd like to unbreak this thing, please. You know, when you stick around for the entire video, it really does help the channel, and we're so appreciative of that, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine that you would stick around and hear everything we have to say. The studio is glistening because you're listening each and every day. If you're not yet subscribed, well, you should be. And click that like button. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.